If you could open with kind of just talking about the position group so far in camp, well, where do you stand? What do you like? What stood out to you?
Yeah, so obviously we've had a lot of changes there, new personnel. So right now we're working really three guys at the position. Two guys are standing out, Austin Talbert Loving, who had played it 2 years ago and then played a little inside linebacker last year, is moving back out there this year. And then a sophomore, Josh Adams, is getting a lot of reps. When we go to some of the dime stuff, we're incorporating a couple other guys at that position, specifically like BJ Gibson's gotten some reps there. But yeah, so it's a whole new group with really not a lot of experience, but learning fast and adjusting quickly.
What do you want out of that position? And I guess part of how I would frame that is under Coach Newberry's system, as things have evolved and the defense changes to some extent, certainly with its aggression. How does a striker look different now, and what do you want it to be in the next couple of years?
Well, I mean, he's basically – it's not like – he's not an outside linebacker really to the field. He's more of a inverted safety. So physically, there's some crossover with safeties and like when we recruit, we pretty much get bigger safeties at that position. So that's kind of what we're evolving into. You got to be able to cover, obviously, but then also there's a lot of calls where we're part of the box, we're edge defenders in the run game, a lot of blitzing, different blitz combinations that they're in. So guys that can do those things are what we're looking for. Obviously we had, if you watch us play last year, made a lot of tackles for loss, a lot of sacks at that position. So there's a lot of opportunities to make a lot of plays at striker. So it's a real dynamic position. Really, I think the guys have a lot of fun playing it. But yeah, that's the physical traits we're looking for. Obviously you got to be athletic enough to cover, a number two receiver if you have to. But we move them around a lot of pressure packages for them. So.
And I'm sure it could vary a little bit based upon experience of specific personnel. But when we spoke with Diego, he said, at middle, he would have a liberty of, there's a base play this year, and he'll have three different calls or blitzes that he can make out of that, granted, what he recognizes line of scrimmage. Would that extend a striker, or does that only kind of –
Yeah, because it's all part of the same. So we'll have different, blitz checks that are based on formation that we'll call different patterns based on either backfield set or 2 or 3 man surfaces. And usually it's the inside linebacker, Diego, and the striker are working some sort of combination there on a lot of them. And a lot of it's just to try to get the best pattern for, what we think is a good matchup for that week. So there are some variables there that some kind of like check with me type stuff.
And the last one for me in terms of Austin, what does he do best, and where do you want to see him get better during the course of camp and the season?
Well, like it's a double-edged deal because ATL's, he played the position before, right, 2 years ago. So he's got a little more game experience, but at the same time, the position has changed. So, and he played at linebacker last year. So he's actually got game reps, which is a huge advantage. But he's got to work on kind of incorporating the whole package because he's still, even though he's an experienced player, he's not experienced at that position at striker. That was a relatively late move, and without spring practice and stuff, he's still in the process of learning it. But he's getting better every day, so I'm very encouraged.
Awesome, thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Bill.
I'm good for right now.
Wags.
Well, Austin Talbert Loving, why did he move inside last season? Was it that you had so much depth at striker and you felt there was a better way to get him on the field, or did you feel he was better suited to inside linebacker? Because I know he's a bit of a bigger, thicker guy. And on that note, when it was you needed to move him back out to striker, did he need to change his body type and maybe work on some of the things that had not enabled him to be high on the depth chart previously?
Well, situations dictate where he plays, right? So 2 years ago we had a couple inside linebackers that we liked. Hudson and Heflin and those guys were going to be our inside linebackers. So to get ATL on the field, the opening there was at striker, and he fit better at that spot. Last year, we had a couple guys that we thought could go in and play striker. And we were really short at the will linebacker spot. So ATL kind of just bounced inside and played it. He was always a little undersized to play that position. And so he's tried to adjust his body a little bit, but he hasn't really changed a whole bunch. And so now that we feel better about some of the guys inside, we transitioned him back outside with our personnel changes that we had at striker, right? If all things were the same as they were last year, he'd probably still be playing will linebacker.
All right, well, there's a lot of talk about the striker position, but let's talk about the Raider position because that's equally inexperienced. Cromartie got the bulk of reps over there last season. I'm looking at the depth chart right now. Going into training camp, it was John Kelly III, a junior, Tommy Lawley, a junior, Nicholas Stroll, a sophomore. I don't think any of those three players played a defensive down last season. Can you talk about – I'm sorry. Strauss is telling me that Downing handles Raiders. So
right.
You only strictly do the strikers. My bad.
Correct.
I remember when you used to do both outside linebacker positions, Steve. My bad.
Go back to strikers, Wags.
All right. Well, beyond Austin, we've talked about ATL. What are you liking about Adams? And what about Vincent Thomas Jr., the sophomore, was listed third on the depth chart. Is he still there, or is there someone else?
Yeah, he's still there. I think Josh has maybe stepped ahead of him a little bit. Josh is really developing nicely. He's got a good feel for the position. He's very athletic, and he's progressing every day too. But again, with him, he hasn't really played yet. So every day is a great learning opportunity for him. Every day he's getting better. So we're excited about him. But the tools he has, he's got a lot of football smarts. He's serious about studying and developing himself, and he's an athletic guy, and so we're very encouraged about the progress that he's made.
Wags, anything else?
Well, I mean, I guess just when you look at the tackles for loss and quarterback hurries and sacks, Springer was tied with Diego, I think, or number one. I mean, those two guys had the bulk of them. So it's clear that in last season, the striker and that inside linebacker spot of Diego's was where they were getting a lot of the pressures, the blitzes, et cetera. I mean, do you think with changed personnel, you can still have similar productivity in that regard, the sacks, tackles for loss, and quarterback pressures?
Yeah, I mean, that's the plan, right? I mean, we're still going to have a lot of opportunities for the striker to make plays, and Jake made a lot of plays last year, but I think ATL and Josh can make a lot of plays this year. We're going to scheme up a lot of stuff for him, and I'm very encouraged about the striker position.
John Sadak, any follow-ups?
Yeah, one would be, what was last year like for you in the transition to a new DC, to a modified system from what you had in the past? What was that whole year like? Obviously, it was a great success on the field, but just take us through from your perspective.
Well, I mean, I think it's always good to have change, and there's always adjustments, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed coaching a different position. I enjoyed playing a different defense. I enjoyed meeting new people. The key for me is the players all remain the same as far as just being high quality kids, and I really like being around them. So all of that is a real positive.
Do you have to watch for Coach Volker like flailing elbows and arms at any point during the course of a game?
No.
Do you still talk to Dale at all? How's he doing?
Yeah, I talk to him all the time. Yeah, he's doing great. Yeah.
We miss him. He would always come in with some ridiculous parable story that he had told the guys that week. We'd usually hear about it from a player first and bring it up to him, and we could see the eye roll and the chuckle. I love them. I mean, the creativity that man came up with was
yeah, he's a good man. Dale's a good man. So, yeah, I talk to him all the time.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Coach. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Wags or Phil, any follow-ups? All good? All right. Thanks, Coach
All
John.
good. Thanks.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank you,
your
sir.
time.
Take care, guys.